fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click that subscribe button, everybody. This is a very special episode because Jim Starlin and Jaime Jameson boards the mothership. They're the writers of Order and Outrage. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Starlin and Ms. Jameson. Thank you for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Our pleasure.
It's an absolute honor to speak with both of you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
So we start with a question of inspiration. What inspired both your love for comics and who were your earliest influences?
Want to take that first?
Well, I mean, Neil Adams, Jack Kirby, Ditko. There's so many, Steranko. I mean, there's so many great comic artists, and I think I found comics in my my much older cousin's, like, his closet, and I was an avid reader, but I had not seen like comics, and like I started trying to flip through his, and my great aunt was like, well, let's get some that are more age appropriate. So I started with like Archie and the weird, you know, those, but like I still kept going to that closet and digging through Spider-Man, and so I loved them.
That's awesome.
My early experiences were Carl Barks's Uncle Scrooge. I thought they were terrific little stories. I used to go to my aunt's, and her boys had those upstairs, and whenever she started playing her Broadway tunes, I would run upstairs and read the comics instead. But I had a lot of the same influences, throwing in Kubert and Carmine Infantino, Gil Kane, a few others.
Oh yeah,
you know, early. I started off a little bit earlier than you did. Yeah, we did. So you know, a lot of other influences outside writing, Dickens, John D. MacDonald, all sorts of books like that.
So are you guys still buying comic books since back in the day, or did you outgrow them at some point?
If I show you my stack that's here of short boxes, not to mention my slabs or the ones that I'm storing in Connecticut currently, you could say I'm still collecting. Yeah.
She's still collecting.
I have them literally labeled with dividers, like these are a Neil Adams box. I've got a Starlin box. I've got, you know, my really important ones. I'm pretty ridiculous with I collect them. He doesn't care.
No, so I was never a collector. You know, when I went into the service, I gave Al Milgram all my comics, and that was about the end of it.
I'll sit there and look and grade a comic. I will look and be like, oh, these staples weren't in the right spot. This is not going to be 9/8, or
so Ms. Jameson, so you're separating them by writer, or are you doing company, or are you doing or by character?
It depends, particularly. Like, I mean, like I want to keep all my Warlocks together, obviously, or all my you know, my Dreadstar collection, which I'm missing the first 8 issues of. Like I try to keep them all together, but then there's certain things, like if I don't have a run of it, like if it's not a full run or something, I'll just do it by artist. So
well, that's awesome. So you guys have been working together now for a little while. So how did that partnership first start?
I was working with Keith Kiffin, and he started not showing up at conventions because I'd ink him at conventions. We were working on a couple projects, and he just got to the point where he was just not showing up at all. And I think I'd seen Jim at 3 in a row where Keith just decided, like, I don't want to go.
So she decided to become an annoyance.
Oh yes, I did. Oh wait, that is also how I started. You can tell him this.
Yes, she got Spencer, our mutual agent, to ask me if I would do a sketch for her. This was after I had blown up my hand. I was not drawing for about 3 years. I was doing exercises to get it back over. And she wanted to sketch, and she didn't want to sketch with Thanos or anything I had ever done. She wanted friggin' Dr. Doom.
I have a wall of doom. I really have a wall of doom.
So I paid her no attention.
Well, I made you something, though.
Well, you made me, but I have yet to get it.
It's in coffee.
Yes, she promised me. She did these. Yeah, she made these infinity gauntlets out of wood, and
they were really 3-dimensional, like really cool.
She said, "If I do this sketch for her, I'll get that infinity gauntlet." And so I did this sketch finally, surprising me that my hand didn't cramp up as it had been. So that got me back into doing drawing again. And
I did bring up Dreadstar.
You were still working at the conventions, and you had Keith not show up, and so I had brought some pencil sketches that I was going to sell there, and I gave them to you to start inking to see how that would work, and they looked good. And then I think at that same convention, Dan DiDio asked me to do a Metal Man cover, and I said, "Sure. How about if she inks it?"
And it's funny because Dan already knew I was Keith's inker at that point because I was working on something like the Gentleman Ghost story. But yeah.
So she inked it. It looked good. So I said, "How would you like to do a job with me? Your first real professional job, would you say?"
No, because I had done some stuff with Keith, but it was my first big professional job.
Yeah. How would you like to ink 100 pages of Dreadstar? She tentatively agreed, and then went back to California and freaked out in front of Neil and Joel and all
Well, I
the
got the
Adams.
pages and I was like, what did I just sign up for? You know, it's like I can't do this. And Neil's like, sure you can, just put down the first line. I'm gonna screw it up. Just put down the first line. You got this. He was like, and he holds up this bottle of white paint. That's what white paint is for. I put down the first line. I was like, I didn't. So
So as the job went on, occasionally she would freak out and say, "I can't do this.
COVID.
You had COVID and you were freaking out, and I can't do this any longer."
It was dying of COVID.
And I say, "Okay, you can quit, but I need the next
No,
10
no,
pages
you
by."
make it sound like I was really, really dying from COVID.
Right. You had
And
that.
I was really like, I was so sick. I was like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I couldn't even sit up. I was just like, I can't do this.
Yeah, and
And every time I was literally working on a page where two-tone vomits. And I was like, this page, this is worth more because there's probably some real vomit on there somewhere. It's literally in my bed, like propped up with a drawing board, like a lap board, trying to do stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. But I quit about 20 times. And he's like, okay, but I just sent you 10 more pages.
Yeah. So I never paid any attention to her, and it worked out fine.
So what led you guys to want to keep working together from that point forward?
Because we collaborate together. We talk ideas and like just, you know, we work well together.
Yeah, we like each other.
Yeah.
So
actually,
when did you guys move from inking and art to, because you guys are both now co-writing Order and Outrage. So how did that transition go from the art collaboration to the writing collaboration?
Well, she was supposed to work with me on the original writing of the first series, but she got ill and couldn't do it. So
I did throw out ideas.
She threw out ideas.
So I did help with the first one, but it wasn't like I was. Yeah. So
yeah. So
I was really sick.
She's on her feet, and we're going to work on it. We have been working with. Rags has got the first issue of the second volume now at this point that we co-wrote, and we're going to work on it from that point on.
And we both like writing and coming up with these ideas and bouncing them back and forth. So I mean,
and she's going to be the co-writer on the Dreadstar versus Dreadstar with me. You know, I'll get a first draft, but you've got to polish it up here. And,
yeah.
Well, there's some bare spots you got to fill in too, but we'll get into that.
So in Order and Outrage, so where did that idea spring from, and when did you feel was ready to proceed to the next part of actually scripting out and producing it?
You know, I'm a little hazy on where I started off on that one. There was a show called Call Your Agent or something, a French show, and there was an actress in it that had this huge afro in it. And I know she was the start of the visual. And I did that drawing, which became the alternate variant cover for the first issue. And started putting it together from there. We wanted some kind of powerful creature, and wanted to do the whole male-female butting heads thing. And
we'd also been talking about, like, you know, the genetic mutation. Like, people can now genetically modify, like, you can design your baby. That's so great. Like, that is like, why do you need to genetically modify? Like, I want my baby to have blue eyes. I want them to have, like, you know, ivory skin or
IQ
tan
of-
skin, olive skin. I mean,
IQ 290.
yeah, it's just crazy that you can literally do this. And I remember talking about this with you at one point.
We were
too.
talking AIs at that point.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of things, just corporate inequities in the system, laissez-faire capitalism gone bad.
Just a lot.
I mean, these are all things that just sort of worked their way
the
into
haves
the
and
series.
have-nots.
Yeah.
But as well, just
And I wanted to do a female character. I mean, that was a big thing at that point. I've never done a female lead character. I mean, had Gamora and Moondragon, a few others that have worked out well, but they've never been at the forefront. They've always been secondary characters, and wanted to do one where she was the lead. And right from the start, I felt that bringing Jaime in was a good idea, just to get the female voice. You actually looked over.
I had
the
ideas,
script
and
on
I
the first
did
one.
edit a lot of that, and,
Yeah.
and I did say to change the word head when you were in the head. I was like, women do talk like that, but he kept on it. He forgot.
Well, it's a military thing.
It's still a woman
it's-
would never use that term.
If she was in the military,
No, she would not. No,
would.
she would not. We don't like certain words like moist.
Like moist. Well, I didn't use moist. You've driven that into my back.
Yeah, there are certain
Yeah.
words. He didn't believe me. I was like, there are words that women just can't stand. Like, and women would never say,
So
yeah, you
I-
were using
so
that.
I
You were
Googled it
using the
up.
head.
What words don't women like? And moist was at the top. Who would have thought?
So where are some of the other words that you said not to use whatsoever?
I said moist. We've never used that. Like, yeah, you were using the head. Just wouldn't do that. There's certain what other words? God, I had a list of them. Now that I'm on the spot, like, of course. But no,
I could Google it up for you.
oh no, there was quite a few. There was like, yeah. There's women have like this thing about certain words where we just cringe.
So Mr. Starlin, so how did having Ms. Jameson as a perspective in writing that character help you change how you might have approached writing female characters in the future?
It was mostly in the voice. The first volume is basically her as the narrator, and it was basically the voice.
And her side of the story, like her
yeah,
memory of the story. And
yeah, it's putting it into, and there are certain things in there that are out of your life also.
Mhm.
All writing, there's a certain amount of autobiographical addition going on, but there was some of that.
I know.
So,
I'm an open book.
so I mean,
So as you're building the story and the script, how do you guys handle disagreements, or were you guys always on the same page with how you wanted the concepts and the plot to follow?
I think we just kind of bounce with ideas, and if I don't think like we just get to like a point of headbutting necessarily, as much as like
there's certain things each of us does. We talk things out ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then my specialty is doing breakdowns in the story.
and I'm the wording
The
sometimes.
wordsmith more.
yeah.
Yes. I'll do a first draft, then you go ahead and
Yeah,
do
like,
it, and we go
bounce
bouncing
it.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned earlier, the artist on the book is Rag Morales, who friend of the show, great guy. So what made him the ideal artist for the book? How did he come on board with you guys? And then how does that relationship work from a point of view of writers and artists?
I'm gonna let you handle this.
Ragas and I talked about working together on things for a long time. We got together at Terrificon some years back, and just talked about doing it. And then when I came to this idea, I talked to him about it. Then we had to find a publisher, and then we had to work out a thing where he could get paid, because a lot of the stuff is back in these days, and the work he would have had to do, there's no way he could wait on a back end thing. So we worked out a deal with Darkhorse where he got a page rate in that, and it went from there. I had some preliminary drawings for Outrage yourself, which one of them became the variant cover on the first issue, but he put his 2 cents in, and he designed up Order entirely, and everything else since then has been his design. Agent Scarlet, which I don't think has appeared yet in the books.
No.
He designed her up, and we gave him a script, and he does his thing, and the artwork's just blowing me away. I'm just every time I look at the Dropbox, I go, man, this is good. It's really good.
Now, since you guys are both artists, and obviously he's an artist, does that enable you guys to have a certain shorthand about how you discuss certain panels, how to discuss the script? How does both you guys being artists help working with him as the artist as well in the project?
Well, the breakdowns are there.
Yeah.
Usually the breakdowns are there, and he just kind of runs with it. But because he's been doing it for so long, I mean, he understands like how the flow should work. So I mean, he does a
Yeah, and I come in with no expectations. I've worked with enough other artists to know that they have their own vision of how something works. I work with Ron Lim, and Ron always gave me exactly what I was seeing because we had the same art style. But then I worked with Bernie Wrightson, and it was never what I was seeing because he had his own vision, and it always worked for telling the story, but it was never what I saw in my mind's eye. And so at this point, Rags is pretty much more in the Bernie style. It's not what I'm envisioning, but it's more than I deserve. It's a really nice looking book all around. I'm just blown away every time I see pages.
So when you're working with a guy at the level of talent of Rags Morales, what does it allow you guys to do from a story perspective? Because he's capable of this level of talent and this level of skill.
It's not so much the determining his level of talent; it's the working with him. He occasionally texts me and says, "How about this? We tried this," and then we will bounce it back and forth. And so there's more. In some ways, there's more collaboration with him than there was in most of the other artists I've worked with. Because Bernie, I mean, with the exception of you, of course, because we're all the time on the things. But yeah, most of the time, Bernie or Ron would just do their thing. But occasionally, he sends something in. He just sent in a party scene a couple of weeks ago, which is in the final issue of the first run, and there's all these strange looking alien party goers, which I don't think you've seen this part of it yet, but it suddenly struck me as Mort Drucker from Mad Magazine. Looked completely different, but appropriate to the job.
And the cool thing about the first issue as well, it's told in a non-linear style of storytelling. So how did the style add to the suspense and sense of discovery within the story?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like Pulp Fiction and a number of other things that have gone along those lines. I think this one's got more disjointed.
Well, I like that it goes from the present, and going to the backstory, and then back to the present, and then now. You're kind of getting her story of how she's wound up where she is now. And you start off, I mean, she just, it's a big question from the very start, like my identity, Yeah, it's a cool perspective of doing it that way, because you're getting your present moments and you're understanding what's happening, but you're also finding out where she's coming from at the same exact time. So
does it make it harder to keep track of the events when you're writing in a non-linear fashion?
I don't think so, because we talked her backstory.
Yeah, I mean, we had the thing all broke down as to which level it was. It was just a matter of cutting it up and rearranging things. I used to work with 3x5 cards on the board, but now with the computer, you can just move things around, cut and paste and get it without losing track. without losing the thing. We're not doing it in the second volume. We're doing a different thing where it starts with a flashback scene, and then which is appropriate to the rest of the story.
More linear.
Yeah, so we're still breaking it up, but not anywhere near the degree we did in the first volume.
I think one of the coolest concepts in these issue, and I assume in the series, is the concept of non-essential, to describe individuals who are viewed as burdens on society, as non-essential beings. So does that term non-essential give insights into the psychology of the world and its citizens?
In the story or in real life?
In the story, well, you can discuss in real life as well as the inspiration, but definitely in the story as well.
Well, it's the more money you have, the wealthier you are, you're more essential. The color of your skin, obviously, like that's going to have factors, or just
We're talking in a corporate
yeah,
value system as opposed to our own.
yeah. I'm talking about in the storyline.
Yeah.
But I mean, even here, I live in LA, and I could sit here and say like we've got a huge homeless population here, and mental health problems, and like they would be just swept. They would have been swept already. Like, I mean, just it's kind of like where people just kind of, okay, you're not as important as these people, but in actuality, everybody's just as important. It's just but it's kind of, I mean, we've changed like in the last 100 years or even less. I mean, we had slavery not that long ago when you look at the big picture of history, and it's just disgusting. I mean, it's an actual disgusting thought. And I mean, that's kind of like saying, like, even beyond that,
Well,
you're just not important. You deserve to die.
Our entire economic structure is based on the work of slavery, so we're still benefiting from it.
Oh, don't ever say that we're benefiting from slavery.
That's what this economy is doing now. It's, this country, well, but it's not just this country.
Well, I mean,
slavery is built up in England and everywhere else too.
It's all over the world.
There's the basis of
the Jews used to be slaves. I mean, if you go back up, anyway,
yeah.
It's more about like the haves and the have-nots again, but the have-nots are just not worthy of even living in this world.
So because were they treated like non-essential in this world at all times, or does the word itself allow people to start treating them as not essential? Is the labeling what makes that the capabilities of that?
Well, Order is just kind of in charge of everything and has decided this. I mean, he's kind of taken over like the entire galaxy, basically, like a Darth Vader.
It's basically fascism, which is corporate control of everything, and it is obviously a label that was chosen by the leadership to categorize people that were not going to be of any value to them. And it was very strange because when I was writing, starting up on the first draft on next book, I started referring to them as non-productives. And it kept bothering me and going, what's wrong? I finally looked back at the script and saw there was non-essentials, and I went, oh, yeah, this is much better. And it's a good thing I did, because obviously this has been more of a catchphrase, catching people's attention than non-productives would have.
And I think that's one thing I liked about that first issue, and that's the idea of non-essential. It really does tell you the importance of words and how you can weaponize them for your own purposes. At least those in control can.
Yeah, words and categorizing can be very powerful and destructive. You see that not only in corporations and in governments, but in religion. Infidels, apostates, all sorts of good words you can use to justify killing off other people.
Yeah.
And another great thing I do like about Order and Outrage, because I know sometimes there's a debate in comics about the importance of message, and I do love that the series has something that you want to say. Why is it important to have an idea, message, and something you want to express to readers, not just the story itself?
I can say Neil Adams, who was like, family to me as far as I'm concerned, and the whole family. He wrote a book called We Spoke Out. It's because people do see things and do talk about things, and these things make it to the big screen. I mean, how many comics have made it to movies or films? But like, it actually does make you think. And if you've got the capability to put that out there and let people hear your voice, like what Neil did with We Spoke Out, which he talked about, like racism. He talked about like the just anti-Jew, like just he talked about all sorts of things in that book. It's very true. Like you get a voice when you do this, and hope that people see, or like get something from it, not just I've read this book, yeah. You don't want it to just be something they read and threw away. You want them to take something with them sometimes. Like you want to get out there. I think it's a great way of getting it out there.
For me, the essential is always to entertain first. But I don't want to do a Las Vegas burger, which is big and tasteless. I'd like to have something in there that after you got done looking at the fight and the pretty pictures, that there's something you might want to think about a little bit. And so maybe Outrage is a little bit more layered with that sort of stuff than a lot of other books I've done in the past. It's still part of a trend of how we do things. First the entertainment, and then the brain food, maybe.
No, that also part of the reason why you do have Rag Morales as the artist. Once again, he's someone who also has, ideas are very important to him. Liberal ideas are very important to him as well. Was that part of the partnership as well? Because you guys do seem to have a very similar view on things.
I don't think we ever talked politics or anything.
You
before.
definitely never talked politics with Rex.
No. No. I think I mean, this was all part of the time of the pandemic and that. So we weren't even seeing each other personally. In fact, I haven't seen him since at Terrificon. We've been, basically a phone and what have you. Yeah, I guess I probably knew that he wasn't a Trump fan, but other than that, I don't think I knew much about his politics one way or the other, to tell you the truth. Well,
one of the nicest things you could say about him. He's definitely not a Trump fan.
Yeah. Well, well, you'll see in the fourth issue.
Oh, really? Is there a connection there?
Oh, yeah, that's a little teaser right there.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Alexis, who's also a fantastic character. So what is it about her as an individual that makes her such a resilient person or character?
I mean, she's had to survive.
Yeah.
She's had to survive her entire life since birth. She's had to there in the story, she's always on the run and she has to survive. Like she just
it's will and circumstance. That's what all survivors have, luck and desire.
Luck has nothing to do with it.
No, her running into kindly
fate, maybe, but not luck.
Well, it's different names for the same coin, different sides of the same coin, I would say.
Okay, yeah. I say fate.
Yeah, see, we do disagree occasionally. Yeah.
So how does her perspective change how you present the story? How is it a matter of her thoughts, perspectives, and character that makes the story different?
Well, I like it's you get to hear her perspective, which is great, because she has so much to say, yet at the same time she doesn't. It's like, I think it's what am I trying to say?
She's not preachy. She's sardonic about what she's telling her story.
Exactly.
There's no tongue in cheek. It's there's a bitterness to her that I think is quite real.
So is it like resilience that fuels her? Is it anger that fuels her? What do you think is the guiding emotion that she's that's pushing
a lot
her
of
forward?
anger?
Oh yeah,
a lot of anger. She's got no reason to not be angry.
Oh, that second issue, she's full of anger.
Yeah,
it's all about the anger in the second issue.
It's order and outrage. I mean, that basically says it all. She's got like some severe anger problems at this point, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
Now, another great character, and I'm going to screw up the name, so please correct me. Kiandu Trumatane?
Kiandu.
And can you say the last name for me?
Oh God.
I don't remember it either. I think I always
It's like Trumatane.
Commentang.
We're gonna
Yeah.
go Trumatane.
Yeah, sorry.
I think,
Yeah,
I think
Kiandu, I just refer to him as Kiandu. He's awesome.
And how much backstory are we going to get of his as the story moves forward?
We never really did too much on his backstory. I wanted to, and I originally wrote a little bit of that, but we
Green a
didn't.
little. We like I said in the first issue, he putting us into a difficult position
Because we
right
did
here.
talk about it at some point. We did have some other
Yeah,
stuff. We
and
didn't know
what-
if we were going to bring it in the future part
What
or
the story?
Yeah,
what the
so
story is.
we do want to bring his backstory in, and we had talked about the backstory, but it's still kind of. But I can tell you, like, he's lost his people. I mean, like, he's literally, it's all about survival, and he's obviously got technology. So I mean, there's some hints, there's little Easter eggs here, but I mean, as is in the first issue, he's like, I'm not a young man anymore. Even, he's just like, he knows he's not going to be around forever, but that he's lived because he's got this scientific side to him, this, the survival side to him. So
There's also the planner, so he's
Yes.
planning out her future.
he has been planning out her future since the day he brought her home.
Picked her up.
Brought her home.
Yeah, I guess he does bring her home. He took her to the cage. Yeah, so-
Picked her up. That sounds like he picked up
well,
her.
yeah,
Like, picked her up. He's raising her. He brought her home.
yeah. I was getting mixed up. That's the first issue.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
the first issue. Okay.
So
Don't want to get rid of things.
I didn't
Yeah.
get. I said,
no.
Easter
I'm
eggs.
saying I'm.
You're
worried
not gonna
about-
get. Yes,
I'm
you
worried about
shut your
doing
mouth.
that. I know that we're doing
Stop
this
while you're
between the
ahead.
first and second issue. I don't want to ruin the second issue for anybody.
Second issue's out.
Yeah. Okay.
so
All right. Moving on.
so when he decides to help Alexis, is it strictly to compassion, or is there perceived value in her? And how does that work with the idea of non-essential and how he views her towards his life?
He actually says it in the book that any life is valuable, and it is out of compassion and loneliness. He's alone, but he literally says in the book, like, saving even one life changes everything. So it is about, like he sees value, not like you're non-essential. It's complete opposite of order.
And when he first meets her, he gains the respect from her because she's devised the same monitoring system for the sweepers that he has. And so that gives her value in his eyes that said, okay, it's worth putting some effort in here.
Now, how about Alexis in regards to Kiandu? Far as does she give him a sense of value and being essential, or is it something else that he gets from helping her from in a personal level?
I think he gets a sense of purpose, but he also gets companionship.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like he's just surviving by himself, and what's surviving for what? He sees a point to this, like,
Otherwise, he'd have to hunt down his own possums.
yeah, exactly.
So, how does Alexis's future get helped to be written through the interaction of Kiandu? Would she always have been someone who's going to fight against order, or does Kiandu instill that aspect to her?
She has it inside her. She's full of hate towards this. She watched her mother die from a plague. She watched sweepers her whole life, like, kill all these innocent people. I mean, she's got anger towards it, but she definitely, part of it is definitely joining order.
Well, there's more to her than
Yeah.
just what we've had in the book so far, because she is outrage. And the outrage part of her character it has to be laid out.
You can't give away too much.
Yeah,
now.
I'm trying.
You can't give away too much right now. So
Yeah,
it's
in such a way that, I mean, there's multiple levels here, and we're just peeling off the
You're
top
just
layer of the onion.
That's what I was going to say. Onion. You
Okay.
use my terminology.
Oh,
That's
sue
my-
me, sue me.
Yeah, I think I will. I'm the one that says that. I've rubbed off on him. I'm always like, it's an onion. You have to peel.
So when we're also looking at the point of perspective then of order, is the goal just to dominate, or in Order's mind, is there a positive to what it thinks it's doing?
Oh, he just wants world control.
Well, I mean, everyone is a hero in their own story. And I think the guys who go to these brotherhood things where men have to be the masters and women have to submit, they believe that stuff. I think they're wrong, but they believe that stuff and they think they're the heroes in their own stories there. And I think Order, because of who he is, which we will once again be peeling the onion off to reveal who he actually is he's not he's a monster, but at the same time he doesn't see himself as such.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm sure many a tyrant have saw themselves as the savior of the
I apologize in
countries.
advance for this statement if it bothers anybody, but Trump thinks he's a hero. In his eyes, he is a great hero.
Yeah.
In my eyes,
Putin,
he
way,
is
I'm sure.
the complete opposite. Yep,
Yeah.
Putin. I can think of a lot of leaders.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Saddam Hussein thought he was a great leader, and I mean, how many innocent people died?
Well, there's Hitler. I mean, a great documentary on Netflix is
Oh, God,
Hitler and the Circle of Evil, which is a docuseries that was on Netflix. It's a fascinating exploration. It's called Hitler and his Circle of Evil, which goes around is about those individuals who are like in his inner circle and how they all kind of played on each other. And the one of the major concepts that they kind of discuss as well is that obviously Hitler thought he was doing some great deed for Germans, and obviously we know how that went. Yeah,
if you ever get a chance to go to Poland, you could still see in Warsaw, the town itself, all these towns where the Nazis came in, there's still bullet holes all over the buildings. There's still, I mean, you feel it when you're there, you feel the sadness. I mean, what he did was just genocide. I mean, or just just awful.
I think Joseph Stalin is probably the best example of it, the fact that Imperial Russia was just a horrible place. People were dying of starvation.
People always want to call you Stalin instead of Starlin.
Or Starling. And basically, the communist revolution overthrew a very terrible political system, but in its place, produced an even more monstrous one. And the fact that by the time Uncle Joe took power, he was wiping people out at a much higher level than Hitler ever did. And I'm sure he thought he was doing the right thing too, at least at the beginning, I hope.
Yeah, and I will say, because I know it's totally off the subject, but I thought it was fascinating. I literally just finished the series this morning on the Circle of Evil one. Is that I guess when Hitler was losing or realized the war was going to be over and he was about to lose, he ordered his guy Spears to burn everything in Germany to the ground. In other words, since you all failed, Germany deserves just to die. Because in other words, it wasn't, so the rule wasn't for him. I mean, so everything he said about doing this for Germany, at the end of the day, it was totally selfish, because when he knew he was going to lose, he decided let it all go. So when you think of
Terrorist front also.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think about Ordered, even though he's spouting things that are in his mind helping, does he realize at some level that is just about him and his own ego?
I think deep down, all these people know to a certain degree that it's for themselves, because they feel so strongly that what they believe in their heart is right, that they don't see. I think they do know it to an extent, but they don't care, in my opinion.
Well, there's a psychological term called scotoma, which is basically seeing what you want to see. Say like you own a Ford, and you think Fords are terrific, but you don't like Chevys, and every time you see a Chevy broke down on the side of the road, you go, oh, there, see, that's proof, and you ignore the Fords that are broken down on the side of the road.
No, actually, I never heard that term. That's very cool. I like that term.
Yeah, way back when.
So see, this podcast educates just as well as informs.
We try.
That's awesome. So how long is Order and Outrage slated to run for?
We have it plotted out for three miniseries. It was supposed to be 3 graphic novels originally, and Darkhorse wanted to go for the miniseries, so we broke it up differently. As we're going along, though, I know we have this conclusion, but occasionally I think, well, what
about this?
Yeah, what if she meets Dreadstar one day?
No. We're not me. No. No crossover. No crossover.
Well, it's a different universe entirely.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
yeah.
So wait, a crossover was just announced, everybody. Just it's been announced. That'd be the one takeaway from the show. There's a Dreadstar Lexus crossover coming. So what can our listeners look forward to in future issues of Order and Outrage?
At least 12 issues altogether there, at a minimum.
12-ish individual issues.
12 individual issues. For
we
3
might
miniseries.
we might have more ideas, so maybe it'll go longer, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're thinking now.
Are we looking at spin-off stories for the other characters so they to go through their backstories as well, or is it all going to contain within the 12 issues?
I've already been thinking about Agent Scarlet otherwise, but you haven't seen her yet, so I don't know about that one. We'll see how the response to her is now.
Well, Mr. Starlin and Ms. Jameson, thank you so much for coming on the Traversing the Stars podcast. You guys are absolutely awesome, and everyone should be picking up Order and Outrage. It's a fantastic. At least I love the first issue, which is the one that's out.
And also be on the lookout for Dreadstar versus the Inevitable, which will be coming out soon as well.
Oh, very cool. Do we have a date for that?
If the Kickstarter has been done, it's about we're proofing the lettering is going to the printer, so it will be available through Monkey Wrench Press.
Very soon.
Very
actually.
soon. I mean, you can pre-order it now, and we are going to be getting into the comic book shop. So, within the year, everybody should be able to get a hold of that one way or the other.
And Dreadstar Returns, which was the first part of the newest Dreadstar.
Nobody can get now at this point. We'll have a soft cover.
Well, actually, we'll have some just for the sell in the Vegas show.
At the Vegas show, but we're out of them after that.
Pretty much.
They don't exist anymore.
And if I saw correctly, Order and Outrage issue 2 is out this Wednesday. Is that correct?
That's where we just picked it up at a comic book shop.
Oh, okay, so
it's out.
Oh, very cool, guys.
Would you like to see the cover?
Sure.
Got it.
This is Rags
This
Morales'
is Rags'
cover.
cover.
Very cool.
Very stark.
Yes, very some beautiful work here.
Yeah.
Don't want to open it and give away anything because people haven't necessarily picked it up yet.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show. And like I said, episode will be out on Wednesday. So I want to thank you so much. I'll be sending you the link as soon as it goes live. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
You too.